Hi everyone, thank you for joining and welcome all of you to the On2 webinar with our topic today is comprehensive tree modeling and Python parts for rebar detailing. I am Mỹ Nguyễn. I'm a BIM developer of On2 software development team, and I'm delighted to be here today and talk with you in this webinar. So the purpose of this presentation is to have you have an overview on ALLPLAN software, ALLPLAN Python Park, onto software development team, and also our products. So we'll divide this webinar into three parts. In part one, we will go through what is ALLPLAN software and how it works. In part two, I will share about comprehensive 3D modeling, and in part 3, I will give you some information about Python Park for rebar detailing in ALLPLAN software. Now we will go to the main part today. It's about ALLPLAN Python Parts. Begin with what are ALLPLAN Python Parts. The current training beam is everything is interconnected by using parametric objects. Moreover, the logic of their behavior can be determined by the user, whether an engineer or an architect. In ALLPLAN, these are Python parts objects that can represent typical structures, also including reinforcement, controlled by the handle and parameters that can be linked to the calculation program. They also enable the automatic views creation. So Python Park can be defined as a parametric object. That means all the elements and all the reinforcement inside this object are parametric. And Python Park are parametric objects where you can also include functions inside them. Functions like section generation or drawing generation, or even also elevation view generation. So why we need to use ALLPLAN Python Park? Python Park can be successfully used with recurring operation like creating a framework, adding a fixture and reinforcement mask and parts, generating drawings, etc. on standard elements. The new Python Parts interface gives the possibility to create Python Parts for yourself. Offer the scripting of Python Parts as a service to third party or accept a library with different Python parts in the future. And in addition to the script language, ALLPLAN Python Parts offer numerous fundamental improvements. For freeform objects, you can use the new parasolic 3D modeling functions. Interaction between individual Python parts and between Python parts and other ALLPLAN objects are also possible. And with Python parts, the scripting of reinforcement is far more efficient. And with the help of the reinforcement set builder, you can automatically generate many sets using CSS and concrete cover. So in conclusion, with Python parts, we can remove the repetitive tasks like editing its vast object with many times, or reinforce and generate drawing many times. And they also help us to have more time, and we save of course cost. So now we will see some Python part which are already at in ALLPLAN. We have now I will come back to ALLPLAN and show you. So we come back to ALLPLAN, and in this part you can see a folder for Python Park and a lot of smaller folder like automatic reinforcement, which contain beam reinforcement, column, wall reinforcement, and bunch of shear Python Park. And another like Rebar Python Park, precast building, precast element. ALLPLAN now add many Python parts, as you can see, and I think they more or less can help you with the workflow. And as I know, ALLPLAN will update more and more functionality to perfect Python parts too. So that means it will help you to create more Python parts with more functions or features. We can cover all of the user need. But due to the fact that not everyone can themselves create Python parts, we can help them increase their productivity. Maybe it is time consuming or maybe it is too difficult to create. We need some team or company to help us to create Python parts for our requirement with the shorter time and the lowest cost. Now I will give you some information about our software development team. A team have all you need. So what is Auto software development team? We are the developer professional BIM software and add-ons. And in Auto software development team, we see the need of each structural engineers, and we want to speed up the daily work. Our client can save more time while using our Python parts. ALLPLAN implementation can cover general use. First, we go to details, customize, and user can control the job structural engineers do. And we stand ready to work with you to ensure easy and effective use of our Python parts. And currently we have 30 Python parts in total. With Autobutton Park, we have a more friendly interface where you can be easy to define all parameters and edit them after creating. And Autobutton Park can cover almost features to help users to speed up workflow in Rebar detailing and produce drawing files. And you can see here we have a building reinforcement package. We can help you to create reinforcement and section with label for building very fast. And in this package, you can see we have a lot of Python parts like wall reinforcement, column, beam, strip 14, and so many Python parts. And now we will come back to ALLPLAN and go through some of them. Because we don't have too much time, I will try to shortly introduce you 3 of our Python parts in a building reinforcement package. We have column, beam, wall reinforcement Python part, and I will give you also some of their striking features. So come back with ALLPLAN here and our Python part here. Now we will begin with the column reinforcement Python part. Let's try. As you can see here, Autobutton Park have a friendlier interface here, where you can find here a lot of tabs with you to define all types of the Rebar here, like here in the general, here in the startup tab, you can define to create the startup with different placement here, or define the parameter for the corners rebar, like diameter, front rebar or stop, and lap it. The same for side rebar. We can also add the connect rebar and add extra beam and other type of startup like intermediate startup or general startup. Oh wait, I will clear this startup. And we have a ability to define the section parameter and label parameter. I will show you how to define two of the tab in wall reinforcement package, wall reinforcement Python part. And after define all the parameter, we only need one click here to create reinforcement for the column. I will show you here. To create reinforcement for the next column, just click to this column. And onto column reinforcement tool can adapt the reinforcement to the smaller or bigger set of the column, like here. You can see. And after we create reinforcement for the column, we can double click to the Python Park element to open the interface again. And now we can define the parameter again. Like here, I will remove the extra beam here and add the generate startup. And continue to click this button to update the reinforcement for this Python bar. Here you can see the reinforcement was updated. And we can have ability to update the reinforcement for all the column with contain the Python bar with the same position name. I will show you how to do it. After define all the parameter, we will use this button to update the Python part for all the column with the position name, the same position name. Here you can see all the Python box elements were updated. And we can also have an ability to create reinforcement for all of these columns with only one click. And here, after define all parameter, we will click this button, sweep all the column, and they will reinforce. You can see here. And next, I will give you some information about how to use the beam reinforcement Python part. So here we have a continuous beam Python part. We will open the Python part interface. And the same with the column reinforcement Python part. We have a lot of tabs. Like here, we have a tab for define the parameter for the top main rebar, like quantity and diameter. We support 3 layers of the top main rebar. We can also define the hook plane here, start and end hook plane, and we can define overlap position, define the overlap plane here, and we have the condition to rank rebar here, and define the overlap plane if the rebar does rank. The same for button main rebar. And here instead of spacing tab, you can see we have ability to define the startup spacing for all span, the same for all span, or we can define different for each span, like here. And we have ability to define 3 different placement of spacing here. Here to tie the spacing, and define the length of the placement based on the value input value here, or based on the beam length. Or beam depth. We also have ability to add startup offset for the startup here. And instead of set tab, here we have ability to create general startup or create and raw the startup you want. Define the diameter, the hook length, and hook angle, and also the concrete cover in 3 sides for the startup. We can also include the middle rebar, define the layer, number of layer, and diameter. Define to extend middle rebar to column or not. And we can also define to include extra bin here. This is the extra bin, and define the parameter for it. And in the additional rebar tab, we will have the ability to define for the top additional rebar here, like we can define the quantity, the diameter, and we have support 3 layers of additional rebar. The same for the bottom additional rebar here. And we can define the additional rebar for each span. Like here, I will go to span number 2 and define the parameter for additional rebar. Here you can see. And after define all the parameter, just click to this button and create reinforcement for beam. So as you can see here, we have all type of rebar for the beam reinforcement here. And with the condition, we can set the tool can automatically create the bottom or the top rebar ground here, or stop and lap here. And final, I will show you how to use the wall reinforcement Python part. Here we have the wall model here. We will set the wall reinforcement drawing file at the active mode. And now open the wall reinforcement Python box interface. And the same with the column and the beam reinforcement Python part. The wall reinforcement Python part have the friendly interface with full of tab that you can see here to define the parameter for all type of rebar that the wall need. Like here in the general tab, we can define the config cover, minimum or maximum bar length, and the overlap length. We can also define to join the overlap at the middle of the wall. And in the rebar tab, we can define to create rebar or mesh. And in the button, you can see here we can define the diameters for the startup, corner startup. Like switch from close and open startup. Define the number of the corner rebar. The same for the end. And here in the starter tab, we can define here the starter length. And also we can add a startup if it is necessary. And we have many tabs to define the parameter for the opening startup, opening rebar, like opening startup here, opening additional rebar with 3 layers here, and opening diagonal rebar. We can also add extra startup if it's necessary. And also spacer like clamp or distancer. After define all the parameter, click to this button to create reinforcement for the wall. You can see with some click, we have a full type rebar for the wall reinforcement, like corner and corner startup, spacer, the opening rebar. I think all unit work great. And onto wall reinforcement Python part, we have ability not only create reinforcement but also create section with the label. I will show you how to do that. Now set the section drawing file at active mode here. Now we can click to the Python box element to reopen the interface. And now we can set the section parameter. Like here we can define the title we can set all from form to define the title like bold, italic, or underline. Say the same for other section. And define the distance from the title to the section, add dimension or elevation. And in label tab, we can define the distance from the label to the section and also the label option. After define all, just click to this button. Then select the drawing file will contain the rebar. And next, select the drawing file will contain a section with label. Now, as you can see, the reinforcement work ready. And now, just need to click to a point in plan view to create reinforcement, section, and label. Now we need to refresh the section and label. Here you can see and although we will need to reposition some of the label, you can see the wall reinforcement Python part can help you to save a lot of time. And these two have many more striking features, but we don't have too much time. So I will give you the detailed information about them in the next webinar. And beside that, we have a more Python part. Like here, you can see cloud service bearing IFC / the foundation Python part. T-Beam will add overlaying a lot of them. And we also have some free tool. Like here, you can see the Python part for architecture model, backup drawing, export IFC. All the tutorial video for these two we will publish in our YouTube channel or our LinkedIn. You can find them to see what you want. And they are very potential. The free tool are also very potential, and we will consider to perfect them in the near future. And beside our Python part now, our tools development team can also develop specific Python part as the request of our customer. We can also apply your company standard in our Python parts. If you have any request, just please send it to support@ontosoftware.com. We will check and get back to you soon. And you can also visit our website and YouTube channel to learn all information about all of our products. We have many tutorial video, reference video that will help you easier to get you to our Python part. Hope they can help. And we are keeping on perfecting the building reinforcement package by adding more and more features or functions which are given by our customer feedback. We also have some idea to develop more extra tools to help the user can speed up their workflow as fast as possible. So now I want to say thanks to our partner from different countries and also the company with the user who trust it and are using and advertising our product all around the world. They are a big inspiration for us to continue our work in the future. And we have made a special video for it, but he come with me to it. So that's all for today. If you have any question or request, please send me an email at support@ontosoftware.com. We will answer all of your questions, check all of your requests, and get back to you soon. And once again, thank you for your time joining with me today, and hope you can learn something helpful with this presentation. And next webinar, we will go into detail of our Python part. Maybe we will begin with how to use the wall reinforcement Python part. So goodbye and see you there.